Hello, everyone, once again. Welcome to the CISO Chair podcast. Today's guest is a visionary leader recognized for his transformative impact across the cybersecurity landscape, Dr. Ram Kumar. Dr. Ram Kumar serves as a trusted authority in cybersecurity governance, risk, and compliance, having driven security strategies for global organizations spanning across technology, banking, healthcare, and automotive sectors. With more than 20 years of industry experience, he is widely respected for building robust cyber programs, leading security transformation, and fostering a culture of innovation and resilience. Holding a doctorate in information security and MBA and numerous distinguished certifications, Dr. Ram Kumar is also a published author and a sought after speaker at top industry forums. His expertise extends from securing intelligent vehicles and complex supply chains to mentoring the next generation of security professionals. Today, Dr. Ram will share his insights on future proofing organizations, managing next generation threats, and redefining the CISO's role in today's dynamic environment. So, let's get ready for a masterclass in leadership, emerging technology, and the keys to building a cyber resilient, connected world. Dr. Ram, thank you so much for accepting this invitation and welcome to the CISO Chair.
Welcome. A very good evening to you. I'm very happy and honored to be featured in this CISO Chair recording. I look forward to sharing my insights in this forum.
Thank you, sir. Thank you so much. Appreciate your time. So today's podcast structure will be broken down at high level, covering topics like industry landscape and leadership, cybersecurity governance risk, key technology trends. We'll also touch upon the automotive industry, and the focus will be on the takeaways for the listeners on how can they shape their professional growth and what is going to be the future of CISO role. And as a structure of this podcast, there'll be a brief rapid fire round with which we would be closing. Sir, to quickly jump into the industry landscape, what do you see as the top three emerging cybersecurity threats organizations must prepare for in the next year?
Sure. Before I jump into that, I just want to put out a disclaimer. So, what I'm saying is purely my personal view and does not reflect that of my employer. So, having said that, I will respond to your query. Of course, it's
Sure.
very difficult to say which are the top three emerging security threats. As we all know, the threat landscape is dynamically evolving, right? So, as of now, in my vision, there are top three threats that companies and organizations must prepare. One is the AI powered cyber threats and deep fakes. These are because of the rapid advancement of AI technology, right? And AI is a double edged sword. So while it also helps in cyber defense, the bad guys, the threat actors, are increasingly leveraging AI to create more sophisticated and automated attacks, right? So this is one. Today we are in the era of hyper real social engineering campaigns, phishing campaigns, which is very difficult for a traditional cyber defense software to detect. And of course, these malware and all is evolving and adapting. The polymorphic malware is a case in point, and the vulnerability exploit has gone to a new level, meaning it's highly automated. So, given the scale and the speed of the attacks and the precision, AI-powered attacks are a key threat actually. Beyond this, you do have the ransomware. Ransomware always gives CISOs and security leaders the nightmares, right? And today we are in the era of ransomware as a service. Sophisticated attacks are launched, and of course, all with eye on data and extortion, right? So we are in the era of ransom as a service model, and that makes malicious actors very emboldened because it's an ecosystem that keeps running because of the payments made to these threat actors and APT gangs, right? APT groups, and this is again a big issue facing the industry as a whole. The third one I would say is the supply chain attacks and the third party risks that we are facing. So today, the enterprise ecosystem is very vast, and when you factor in your third party vendors and suppliers, the attack surface also is increased, right? So something going wrong with other companies, your third party services or software, that can also impact the organization in a big way. And again, we do have constraints in terms of visibility as to what's going on. So you need to have a robust third-party risk management program where you have a complete, at least to large extent, of visibility into their security program and preparedness and stuff like that. And of course, today the open source components are actually targeted. Again, open source software is widely exploited today, so that's again a matter of concern. So I think in this era, these three are the key emerging threats in my humble opinion.
Thank you, sir, for that. As a security leader, does it not overwhelm you in the sense, what to prioritize and what to look at first? And what is your, in general, approach? Is it the management direction, or is it pertaining to the industry threats, or maybe the business expansion part of it, or maybe quite possibly mix of everything?
It's a mix of everything. Of course, the sharp eye on protecting data and the accompanying underlying infrastructure. What's important is aligning to the business goals and also managing the risks effectively. And of course, complying with the regulations and laws under which the organization comes in is very, very important. Ultimately, we don't want to fall foul of the law or regulations or the requirements. So, given my experience in multiple industry verticals, top security leaders, when they work in a complex environment, it's very important that they align their security programs with the business. It has to be business aligned so that the risks are treated effectively. The other thing is how they communicate and influence the senior leadership, especially if they are reporting to the board. Right, that matters a lot. And the C-suite and the board understanding of cybersecurity and allocating the required resources and authorization matters in the success of the security program, at least in the tone at the top that matters. Then it has to percolate down the line across the enterprise. So that's very important. Cross-functional collaboration is very important because, as we all know, security function is not a standalone function and it cannot make a security program effective unless all the stakeholders like compliance, HR, legal, business units, finance, everyone handholds and work towards security conscious work culture and support security initiatives. And of course, today, the era of AI, the incidents have increased a lot. So incident response always has been a bugbear. How incidents are handled effectively, and the related crisis communication. So that's also very important when we are talking about communication and influence. Other key thing is your cyber resilience. What was earlier known as the business continuity and disaster recovery, today it's assumed huge significance as cyber resilience. So how you are able to recover from an incident and resume business as usual operations, and what is the minimum downtime, the underlying technologies that would go with making a recovery faster. And end of the day, you don't want to look bad in front of your clients and other stakeholders. You don't want to slip up on the agreed SLAs and run into losses and bad reputation. So adopting assume breach mindset is very important. We work in a scenario where there is a breach that has happened. How are we going to be resilient? What is the resilience first approach that we want to adopt? What is the investments that we want to make so that the detection is rapid and containment is faster. Your response is on the fly. People are trained and tested, all the playbooks, and finally the recovery and going back to normalcy is easy. So, having said this, it's very important as the tone at the top and the tools that we are using to make things happen can leverage automation tools, right? And also focus on the human aspect. So all these things, I would say, are very critical when we speak about how we operate in a complex environment today.
Thank you, sir. Thank you for that. So, I want you to hold on to that, the multi-sector experience that you mentioned about, because I have a couple of things to, to further explore on, and of course, the human factor as well. But before that, Probably maybe this is something I could have started with as well. Just wanted to know, how did security happen to you, or was it a informed decision to come into security? Because at the time when you would have started, things would have been different.
Yeah, I know. Because way back in 2004, there was nothing called cybersecurity. So, fresh out of my MCA, I had a non-IT experience as well of about 2.5, 3 years. So, I did my MCA, and then after my PG, I was applying, and this is the very first company. It's a US-based MNC called United Online. They had a OTC in Hyderabad. So that's where I started my career. So we were living in Hyderabad that time. So as a fresher, I joined and call it a destiny or a divine blessing, whatever. I was assigned. We were a bunch of 5 people. Two of us were assigned to the security function, security department, and the rest of them went to the usual technical support, tech sub, that's what we used to call. So that's where I cut my teeth in uh, information security. Those days it was called infosec, before internet became big and it's changed into cybersecurity. So that first year that I worked gave me a lot of learning. The learning curve was very steep, and I was also wanting to learn as much as possible, and that knowledge and skills spurred me to author a book called Cyber Crimes. This was way back in 2005. This was before the era of cloud, before the era of social media. I'm not sure how many of you would remember, have a social media platform called Orkut, right? And we were in that. And this era, I wrote a book called Cyber Crimes and got it published by a Delhi-based publisher, and it was a relatively a successful book because it sold well, and also it was featured in many, stocked in many libraries across India and a few universities abroad. So that's how my first break into this domain happened.
Thank you for that very candid and honest answer. And coming back to the human factor part of it, like in your opinion, like what are the most effective strategies one could deploy to cultivate a strong security culture?
Sure. So, historically, human factor is always viewed as the weakest link because it's associated with unintentional errors, like you click a malicious link or falling for a phishing bait, right? Phishing scam. So that while all these things are still happening, in today AI era, it's all hyper real, as I said. The landscape has evolved a lot, right? Today, it's not just an error; it is going to targeted manipulations, kind of targeted spear phishing campaigns, or business email compromise, or deep fakes, both voice and video. So all these things are, at the end of the day, it's about conning people out of sensitive information and credentials, right? So psychological exploitation is what is happening today, and a lot of information is being gathered via OSINT, right? Open source intelligence. So all these things are happening. Apart from that, with in the AI era, you do have the increase in sophistication in these attacks. So we already spoke about AI-powered social engineering. You also have issues like insider threats. Our own employees, whether intentional or unintentional, they also fall prey, or whatever be the motivation, or just a careless, negligent attitude. They may, contribute towards data exfiltration, sometimes even misuse of privileges, or they don't just simply don't have that security hygiene, right? So all these things, it could be from a deliberate act, or it is a they don't have that awareness. The other thing is the attack surface has increased. So today, especially after the COVID pandemic, where remote work proliferated, and still there are a good number of companies that are allowing hybrid work, if not completely work from home. So that is again an issue. Bring your own device. Companies they allow Gen Z kids to bring in their own devices, and cloud-based services are the order of the day, right? So all these things mean that the human perimeter extends beyond the traditional office network, right? So this makes it all the more very different from the earlier days, and of course, you can always mitigate them to a large extent by having a very strong security first culture. So, if I may take a moment to explain this, it's about leadership buy-in and their, the tone at the top and the role they play in pushing for having a very strong and robust positive security culture. This includes leadership by example. It's not that senior management would say everyone to do follow a security rule, but they look for exceptions. That's not the way. Where there is genuine reason, business reason, of course they can go for exceptions. Security should be looked at as an enabler rather than a roadblock, and the mindset is very important. Beyond this, on the training and awareness front, the programs should not go beyond a tick box item or a checkbox item. It's and it has to be constant, so that people engage positively, trustedly, and also it should be bite-sized. Tell me, when did we actually watch a 45-minute video? Today, everything is micro learning. You want in short chunks of videos, not more than 2 minutes, 3 minutes, with a lot of fun activity, engaging content, right? So all these things are important, and positive reinforcement you can make by involving them in some quizzes, interactive simulations, leaderboards, and also you can recognize them with some good rewards, right? Some certificate or some goodies. And then publicly, you can always exemplify their good behavior, good security behavior. And also, it has to be very situational awareness. A latest malware is going, how it can enter into the network, and be careful about this kind of symptoms, all those things. Same thing with social engineering, phishing attacks or something. It has to be very situational and specific with the easy to follow instructions, and people understand over a period of time, okay, this is the risk that we have when you click on such things. So they'll apply, and this kind of positive reinforcement will get their buy-in. The other important aspect when we talk about human factor is to have that psychological safety. Need to adopt a blameless reporting culture, or a no blame reporting culture. So where people are scared to report mistakes or scared to report issues, they don't want to flag anything to the help desk because they are scared that there will be retribution of a punishment or ridicule. That's not going to help. So it's very important that any issues with their laptop or systems should be open and have that confidence to report, and that's got a lot to do with the right culture. So, and also have a mechanism for getting a feedback on every initiative you take and factor in that, and then work on making things better. So the key thing here is, apart from all this gamification and blameless reporting and rewards, all of that, you connect the cyber risks or cyber crimes to the personal lives. Maybe you can have some campaigns around best practices to stay away or to safeguard against digital arrest scams that we see commonly in media today, right? So when you connect these kind of things that are real and happening, they understand the clear and present danger. This is not science fiction stuff that happens only in far off in other companies, but it can also impact us. So these foundational behaviors and best practices you can inculcate using innovative methods. Something like strong passwords, because passwords something we use all our lives, right? And password managers, how you can use them. MFA, importance of enabling and following the rules, right? Not workarounds. And why patching is important. Whenever there is a requirement for software updates, they have to cooperate, right? And vigilance against any kind of social engineering. All of this makes it very pertinent. And of course, you can always have a metrics program which captures on the simulation results, right? Click rates, reporting rates, and what was the engagement in training, what is the incident trends, what are the human errors. All these you can track and use it for identifying high risk areas, behaviors, or people, the individuals, right? And make some interventions. And it has to be an iterative improvement over a period of time so that things get better. So I thought I'll give a comprehensive answer when you ask about human factor. Interestingly, in my PhD dissertation, one of the key areas that I investigated was on the security culture, which is a subset of organizational culture and how it impacts employees to follow security policies and requirements.
I think that adequately answers how and why you have such an elaborate answer to it to cover it from all aspects. And there's another school of thought that human is not just the weakest chain, but is also a primary attack vector. And probably also because there's no technology
Yeah, yeah,
or a hard control for that. But thank you for that
yeah.
very comprehensive and all-rounded answer on the human aspect, which is always a moving target. So again, we know the complications around today's times, the ever-evolving tech landscape, the different industries facing different threats. And again, the regulations part is also getting complex is not a right word, but we're getting more powerful, so to speak. I wonder, like, so what distinguishes an effective CISO or a security leader operating in global complex environments today?
See, today's, one thing for leaders, it's very important is to anticipate the risks today, right? And they have to see the risk, anticipate the risks, and make changes in the environment, in their way they function to handle these risks. The incident response procedures are something they need to keep in mind. Prep the organization, at least the CISO organization, in handling, have adequate budget for all the technology tools and processes to be put in place so that they are at a better situation or a better preparedness they have in handling these things. And what is more important is they need to keep all the stakeholder teams involved, right? These are the new issues that are happening, new attack vectors that are happening, and take their buy-in also, so that way everyone contributes in making things better, and focuses more on anticipating these things. As I said, assume breach mindset they need to adopt, right? Because today you cannot work with a mindset that we have all the best of tools, technologies, and processes, and we will not get breached or incidents will not happen to us. So that's very important that they have this mindset and accordingly calibrate their security strategy. One other point is keeping the board or C-suite completely in the loop about all these new threats and speaking their language, the business language, cutting down on the tech jargon. It's very important that they speak the language of business so that the messaging is very, very effective.
Thank you again for that. So I'm kind of leaning a little towards tech as we talk about avoiding tech when speaking with the management. With cloud security and zero trust adoption accelerating, do you see any pitfalls that the organizations more than often observe and repeatedly encounter while adopting these technologies?
No, I think cloud security and zero trust is the way to go because digital transformation initiatives before COVID was a different ballgame altogether. After the pandemic struck, it took off. Cloud adoption took off in a big way. You know better. So, of course, with the new range of technology threats that are happening, prevailing, zero trust has gained a lot of currency today, right? And of course, if I have to point out, the pitfalls the companies may encounter when they go for cloud and zero trust adoption, it often comes from the misunderstanding of their core principles as to, or they are in a hurry to implement without proper planning. That's what my experience has been. And very importantly, when we talk about cloud security pitfalls, the usual ones, no prices for guessing the misconfiguration, right? Misconfiguration actually breaks a lot of things, very risky stuff. Of course, the identity access management sprawl when it comes to cloud environment, it is all over. So, what kind of roles, policies, and permissions that you need to put in place, right? So, that is very important. The other key thing is the lack of centralized visibility and control. It's lot of tools. The number of tools we have for managing is leading to a very fragmented approach. And when you manage multiple, multi-cloud environment, and that leads to a lot of security blind spots, and it's very difficult to monitor and respond effectively. And we always believe in, just lift and shift is good enough, right? It's not that way. Simply, if you move from on-prem to cloud without completely looking at what are all the risk areas, conducting, understanding the threats that could be facing the cloud native environment is again a problem area. So these are issues. When we speak about zero trust adoption pain points or risk areas, are when you try to go for a zero trust program, and many people think I just buy a tool that is zero trust ready, and then we'll implement, and then we are good. No, zero trust is not a product, it's a strategy. I heard from one of the senior leaders who was talking about how Google took 7 years to fully be ready for to implement, complete the implementation of zero trust across their entire technology sprawl, right? So that is very important. It's not about single tool that they can procure and deploy. It's about the philosophy behind zero trust that needs a strong re-architecting the policies, procedures, processes, and controls, IT security controls that you need to put on your entire IT estate, right? And the other thing is they don't plan phased implementation. You cannot do in one shot, right? It's a long process, so you have to go one thing at one step at a time and implement in different areas. And you don't involve the people, right? A human factor, that is again the user experience. All of this plays a very critical role. And today we are in the era of shadow IT. In the same breath, I can talk about shadow AI. So how are you going to manage all of that? This actually undermines your zero trust initiatives, right? So clarity in communication and training on why it is being implemented also helps in at least for the core teams, technical teams. It's very important. And another pitfall I can recall is failure to segment and define the protect surfaces, right? If you don't understand micro segmenting controls or micro segmenting different critical data or applications and services, so this is what we call as a protect surfaces. So then the organizations struggle to define and enforce security granular policies around access management. So this is access management is core to the concept of zero trust. So that way, I would say these pitfalls need to be taken care in order to be, avoid.
Thank you for that. So also wanted to understand like what guidance would you have for security leaders managing security risk associated with increasing IoT and OT integration as well, especially in sectors like manufacturing, energy, or automobile?
I would emphasize the integration of IoT and OT, especially in these sectors that you mentioned, because demands a very different approach, security approach than the traditional IT, right? So security leaders must prioritize on safety, reliability, and physical consequences along with data confidentiality, right? Because when you look into a fully automated manufacturing setup, the safety is very, very important, right? So most importantly, start with the gaining complete visibility into your inventory, right? So if you don't know what you're securing, then it is a very tall order. So security leaders should have a real-time asset discovery of all the connected devices in a manufacturing setup, like all the robots and assembly line sensors and telematics. All of this they need to have, including your this includes all your hardware, software, firmware versions, and communication protocols, etc. And the other thing is your how do you segment and isolate them aggressively? Because IoT systems and OT systems are very critical for functioning of factories. So this cannot be exposed directly to the internet. So again, you have to implement zero trust principles and take a zero trust approach and segmenting these environments, right? So that it is secure at all times, and prioritize on safety critical systems, especially in automotive sector. A cyber attack can actually impact life threatening, can have physical and life threatening consequences, right? Also, if vehicles are hacked and vehicles lose their capability to be safe, right? And the driver is not able to control, or the vehicle is being manipulated, then it is going to be a big problem. Some of the key things, I mean, strategies I would suggest is the security by design approach, and also focus on supply chain security. I think beyond this, of course, you need to have its own flavor of incident response when it comes to IT and IoT. So again, this is a tall order, but with effort and practice, playbooks can be developed for rapid containment and recovery for our IT and IoT systems. And of course, continuous monitoring, as with any other system, is critical, and with a focus on quick anomaly detection and remediation, right? So the other thing normally I see in OT system environment is the legacy systems. So they always have a challenge with patching. So, and you can't have afford to have any downtime because of the criticality of the operations. So, some compensating controls security leaders can actually look at, like virtual patching or stronger access controls, network isolation, and continuous scanning for vulnerabilities. All of this needs to be done, and have a strong that can actually manage the hybrid environment of IT and OT. So any knowledge gaps that you can between IT security and OT product engineering should be fixed, and have culture of collaboration and cross training, so that the teams can understand and appreciate all these underlying implications of security measures. Right. So that's my take on this question.
Thank you. Appreciate your input on that. And just to linger a little more on this, as vehicles are becoming smarter and more connected, in your opinion, what role do regulations like, for example, ISO 21434, which is an international standard for cybersecurity engineering in road vehicles, how do these standards play, or what role do they play in shaping the automotive cybersecurity strategy as a whole?
Yeah, because for long automotive, because I've been in the sector for the last 6 years or so. So I can tell you that for traditionally automotive sector didn't had any major regulation when it comes to cyber security. But of course, the ISO 21434 and we do have the related UN R155156. These make it very foundational and very transformative as well for adopting cybersecurity strategies specifically for automotive companies. So the key roles are also changing when it comes to managing cybersecurity in these industries. One is, as I said, they're mandating security by design approach, right? So it has to be embedded and it has to be throughout the life cycle, and it cannot be bolted on later. So through the development, production, operations, maintenance, and decommissioning, you need to have security. So that means you have to integrate security from the beginning, right? And also have a common framework and language, because the standard aims to do that, so that everyone is on the same page. So you have to involve all the OEMs and your tier one suppliers, right? So that everyone speaks the same security language and understand the requirements, right? And the other key thing is specifically for the cybersecurity management systems, the ISO 21434 strongly advocates implementing and maintaining a cybersecurity management system that defines the organization roles and processes, resources for managing cyber risks to vehicles, right? So that all of them enhance the security posture, security governance, right? And this is going to be very structured because it is a ISO standard and rather than a ad hoc measure. Beyond this, they are also focused more on risk-based methodologies like TARA, right? Threat analysis and risk assessments. That is again getting embedded as a way of life. And accountability you need to drive for the across the supply chain. So all your tier 1, tier 2, tier 3 suppliers, who are it is, they have to come on board when it comes to cybersecurity so that no compromise can happen. And importantly, the threats, when they evolve, there is always a strong emphasis on continuous monitoring, vulnerability management, and incident response, right? So, to conclude, I would always say that this particular standard, ISO 21434, acts as a very important blueprint, and it drives compliance, right? So that auto industry secure. End of the day, it is people who are going to drive the cars or vehicles, and this entire effort is to ensure it is all secure, right? In terms of every stage of vehicle engineering and management.
Thank you so much for that. And having mentored many cyber professionals, what is your number
Mhm.
one career advice for professionals or practitioners seeking boardroom impact?
So one thing that they need to do is be very clear in the communication. So to work on having superior communication skills, not just while you speak, the way you also present content. It has to be clear, concise, and speak the business language. It is not technical jargons that they would understand, because understand that in the board level, the leaders can be from different background, right? They come from very different background. So in that kind of scenario, you cannot expect everyone to understand technology. So you have to be very clear in messaging the risks, what kind of risks we are facing. Maybe you can also quantify the risks in terms of money, and also benchmark your industry standards, in relation to your own organization, so that they get a better understanding of where the company stands. So these are all different ways in which you can actually make board communication very effective. This is one of the key things that I see in many upcoming leaders, not focusing much.
Thank you for that very pragmatic guidance, so to speak. Now, before we actually jump into the last section of this discussion, which is the rapid fire round,
Mhm.
touch upon the privacy side of things. And because we also talked about culture, and with DPDP coming in, of course,
Mhm.
there are more working documents and all of that enforcing part is coming. How optimistic are you with regards to the adoption of DPDP and we deriving real benefits from privacy regulation like that, in your opinion?
Yeah, I'm very much excited because it's end of the day, it is going to empower consumers like you and me about how these big corporates who are, collecting, storing, and handling our data. So that gives a leverage for consumers as to how big corporations are using or misusing data, and a lot of it depends on how the act is being implemented in letter and spirit. I'm only hoping with a lot of positivity. I'm very optimistic that this law will solve issues like all the misuse of law of our personal data by anyone. Today, you go to a kirana store or a supermarket, they ask for your number. Otherwise, if you refuse to give a number, they don't give you the bill, right? They don't generate the bill. The sad state of affairs. Question is, who authorized them or gave them the rights to ask my mobile number if I want to purchase something? You go to a hotel to stay, they ask for your Aadhaar card as a valid proof, right? Or a valid ID. So if I give my driving license, they don't agree, right? So all these anomalies, all these issues, hopefully it will get solved, and end of the day, consumer is going to have a handle on how their data is being used by these big corporations. A lot of good provisions are there in the act. When you look at everything from rights for the data principles and how they can exercise it, and the privacy notice and the minimal collection of data and for the specific purpose. All of this is actually going to be a game changer provided it is properly implemented. Only the draft rules and the public consultation is completed. I hope in the coming months the government might publish the final rules, and with that, the law becomes operational. Of course, there have been a lot of lobbying by micro, small and medium enterprises and startups that they want exception, or they want a longer period for to start complying with this law. We have to wait and see.
Thank you for that. So, with that said, we'll quickly jump into the rapid fire round before we close. Couple of quick questions coming your way, starting with what is the biggest myth about cybersecurity in your opinion, or something that you encounter among business leaders?
Of course, what I'm saying is changing a lot these days, but still there are sections of business leaders who don't understand cybersecurity. They still have that notion that it is an IT problem rather than a fundamental business risk. They don't tie it down to business success, or they don't see security as an enabler. They still look at security as a cost center, and as such, it doesn't get the attention it deserves in terms of budget allocation, resourcing, and the importance. So that's a big myth. I think it is changing in progressive companies. But when it comes to recession, they don't have money. They just bunch the CISO organization under IT, and that's not a good thing, because obviously there is a conflict of interest, right? So I would say that.
And final question from my side, what is one must-read resource for cyber leaders in 2025?
Yeah, you can. I can talk about NIST standards, right? I mean, NIST standards. If you, of course, AI is coming big way. You can also look at NIST's AI risk management framework. I would say stick to the cybersecurity framework version 2.2, right? That is something I would recommend, because that version is very comprehensive and current, and that gives a very strategic blueprint, right, for managing cyber risks very effectively.
And believe you are referring to NIST CSF, the Cybersecurity Framework version
Yes,
2.0.
exactly, version 2.
Thank you so much, Dr. Ram Kumar, for taking out time and
My
for all
pleasure.
the candid and honest inputs. I'm sure this is something that will help all our listeners. And thank you for also being an inspiration. And thank you for taking out time.
My pleasure. Thanks for having me here. I appreciate all that you do, and wishing you the very best.
Thank you so much, sir. Hopefully, we'll talk soon. And looking forward to also
Sure,
meeting in person very soon.
absolutely. Same here.
Thank you so much, sir.